Now, three people vying to become state party chair of the Republican Party of Arkansas. That will be decided at the state committee meeting happening on December 7th in Little Rock. Joining us in studio today is Margot Herzl from Searcy County. Margot, thank you so much for joining us today in studio.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
Of course. Well, I think a lot of our viewers know you by now, but just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. You are so active there in Searcy County with the county committee. I know that there's a women's club and then especially with the election commission. So just introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, I am a doer. I like to get things done. And so I went and sought out the Republican Party in Searcy County as soon as I was done having my baby. And they needed a secretary, and I've been their secretary ever since. And I've founded the Republican Women's Club in Searcy County. I'm the founding president, and I wrote the bylaws because I like bylaws. And the election coordinator is definitely the biggest job that I do there. And I thought that was something I should take responsibility for because I did instigate the conversation about hand-marked paper ballots in Searcy County. And I really loved getting that done for Searcy County because it turned out that it wasn't a partisan issue at all. And we had Democrats in the county very eager for hand-marked ballots as well. So it was something where the whole community got together and talked to our quorum court, and we've got to do our last two elections on hand-marked ballots, which has been a lot of work, but also really fun. And it's been amazing to see the community taking ownership of their own election again.
That's awesome. And then you also are the secretary for the Searcy County Republican Committee.
Yes.
And then the Ivory Tusk Republican Women, you're president of that.
Correct.
You are a mother of 5, sixth on the way.
Yes.
You were an RNC delegate this past summer. How did you get involved in politics here in Arkansas?
Well, I got involved in politics in life because I grew up brainwashed, and when you get a taste of the truth, then you can't get enough of it. And that led me to want to be involved in sharing the truth with other people, which means getting yourself some kind of pulpit. And so I've been pursuing politics as much as I could for the last really 9 years, I would say. And it's just all about trying to make sure people don't grow up with the disadvantage of being lied to all the time that I had to deal with.
Well, you grew up, so I remember we had this conversation in Milwaukee on that hour-long bus ride. Now, I'm remembering this. You grew up out of state. Was it Colorado?
Yes.
And in a liberal atheist family.
Correct.
And that's what you mean by truth with a capital T.
Yes.
If you just would very briefly talk to us about what that means in your life now.
Well, it's really interesting when you're growing up with dogma because you can't explain why you believe anything in particular. You just know you're right.
Yeah.
And so if reality starts to push back on what you believe, it's reality that has to be wrong. And the first big thing for me was accepting that reason and evidence have to be the standard of truth. And that was a long and very painful process of shedding off those things that I had believed that were false. And the very last thing that I came to was God, because I was saying my guiding light is the truth. I'm going to follow the truth wherever it leads me.
Yeah.
And eventually, it took a really long time to get here. And I thank God so much for his grace in guiding me. I discovered that ultimately the truth is God.
Yeah.
So that's
okay. Well, we can have you back on some other time to talk about that because, as you know, Conduit is founded on Judeo-Christian values, and so I know that our viewers would love to hear your testimony. But let's also hear about your run for Republican State Party Chair. What made you decide to throw your ring or your hat into the ring and run for this this position?
So if you look at our party right now, anybody who can see the party can see that it's deeply divided. And broadly speaking, there are two factions, and most of the focus of those factions is on defeating each other and not on governing the state of Arkansas. And we have a mandate from the people, which we need to be extremely grateful for, because it's an opportunity you don't always get, where the people say, okay, we're going to trust you to lead us. And right now, we are not doing the job that we should be doing. And our focus is on tearing each other down instead of on improving the lives of the people in our state. And we need somebody who can be a chairman for the whole party. And Joseph Wood has been a chairman for half the party. And he's had an opportunity to try to bring people together and build bridges and heal those divides. And instead, he has chosen to ignore the divide and cater to one half of the party at the expense of the other. And so we got to the end of the period where you need to announce. And I was looking at the candidates who had announced, and I thought, there is nobody here who is willing to represent the whole party. And so I need to do that.
What do you, when you look at the party, what do you see, what is your idea of the purpose of the state party?
So, of course, the purpose of our elected officials is to make good laws for our state. And the purpose of the party apparatus, which stands behind them and helps them and talks to them and elevates them, is to have a positive influence on that lawmaking process by supporting people for office, by keeping an eye on what's going on, by offering suggestions and sharing our own experiences and expertise. And of course, it takes an unbelievable amount of work to do politics and get things done in politics. And no one person can do it themselves. No one elected official can do it themselves. No chairman can do it themselves. You have thousands of man hours that go into every election, and you have to have people who feel like their voice matters and can put their heart into it.
Yeah. And so that's the party in your mind. What is the idea of the position of chair? What is that purpose?
Well, a chairman is a servant leader, and their whole purpose is to facilitate communication and pull down barriers that are stopping people from communicating well, because a chair is not a ruler. And it's not my ideas that matter. It's not the chairman's ideas that matter. It's the fact that you have to let the people speak, and they will have the wisdom to do the right thing as long as you are following a fair process that gives everyone the opportunity to participate fully.
Yeah. Why does that position as chair ultimately matter, especially as it relates to the county committees, thus the voters?
Well, it is that person's job to set a tone for cooperation and inclusion, and to say that every person in the party matters. And we haven't seen that happening so far. It's definitely a very powerful position, especially the way that our rules are currently written. The chair is responsible for appointing almost all of the members of all of the committees, and it's really a lot of responsibility to fall on one person, and they shouldn't treat that responsibility as an entitlement. It has to be a position of listening.
Yeah. If I don't think it would be a stretch to say that since Governor Sanders endorsed Chairman Wood the first time around, it's safe to say that that's probably her choice of candidate this election. If you were to win, how would you work with the governor?
Well, she has an extremely important role in terms of the legal landscape of the state. And so I definitely hope that she would be looking for cooperation with the party. I don't want to get rid of her or any other member of the establishment. They all have extremely important experience and thoughts, and they are Christ's children too. They're God's children too. And they all have a unique part of God's wisdom that we need in our party conversation if we're going to operate at our best. So, I mean, I would love to get the opportunity to work with the governor if she is amenable to that. And the purpose is really for everybody to learn how to listen and understand what's going on.
Yeah, well, and to that point, party unity is so important.
Yes.
And as you mentioned earlier, we're so fractured at the moment, especially coming out of the state convention. Where do you see us right now, and how do we move forward?
Well, I see us as being engaged in a series of back and forth power plays, and it's really, really detrimental. The thing is, you absolutely must follow the rules because you cannot break our party's rules without bearing false witness, because we all signed on to that contract when we took positions in the party. And so the fact is that the convention stands. That's what the rules say, and we can go into that in as much or as little detail as you want.
Well, yeah, I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Sure. Okay, so this is when you have an organization, you have a body that represents the society as a whole, and then it typically only meets every couple of years. And so in the interim, you have a governing board. And our governing board is the state committee. So they're subordinate to the society of the whole, which is the state convention. And then they, again, only meet twice a year. And in between, there are things that need to be done, such as organizing those meetings, for example. And so they have a yet again subordinate body called the executive committee, whose job it is to do those interim jobs. And Robert's Rules says in at least two places, a board, they say an executive committee cannot overrule any decision of its board, which in turn cannot overrule any decision of the society as a whole. And so that's the macro picture in terms of what the rules say. It's ludicrous that 18 people thought that it was within their rights to vote to overrule the will of around 400 delegates to the convention. And so if people believe that there's some kind of rules contest regarding what happened at the convention that should take place, the body where you have to address that is in the convention. And you can raise a point of order at the next convention, whether it's a reconvening of the convention we just had, or whether it's the 2026 convention. You can raise a point of order about anything you think is a continuing breach. I don't think there is anything that is a continuing breach. I think the rules are pretty clear on this one too, because Robert's Rules doesn't impose any notice requirements at all on conventions. It says conventions have a natural right to consider any number of motions from the floor without notice.
Yeah.
And so our party's rules are the only limitation. And the only limitation our party rules places is that you have to give 60 days notice to the party's committees, specifically the rules and platform committees. And that was done for everything except the convention location rule, which says the future conventions have to be a reasonable distance from the state capitol. So if people want to raise a point of order about that one at the next convention, they can feel free to do that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It really will. I just, It is. It's disheartening to see.
Well, so the second part of your question was where do we go, right? Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
The convention stands. It is the legal rules of our party at this point in time. Those are the rules.
Yeah.
However, it is true that certain members of the establishment deserved the backlash that they got at convention, particularly those who were responsible for planning the convention and said, we're not going to let the people talk about anything, which is a ridiculous stance to take. However, a lot of the legislators feel, and perhaps rightly, that they did not deserve that backlash, and they are feeling not like they want to enthusiastically participate in the business of the party. And we have a rift now where, yes, the people of the party, the members who've not had privileged status in the past, they have a much stronger voice now in the party, which is a great thing, but they also do not have a relationship with the people who are responsible for lawmaking.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important that we, going forward, have people from the grassroots and people from the establishment, and we need to have a joint special committee where they can work out some kind of compromise that everybody feels is fair in terms of the rules going forward. Because the fact is, we can change the rules again, and we want everyone to feel like their voice matters in the party.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. That's a different perspective than some have right now. What would you say are your top priorities as chair?
I think that healing the division in the party is really the number one mandate. That's the thing that matters the most, because we have to solve that problem so that we can put our attention back onto electoral success in the state and back onto positive legal changes, because this past election was the biggest red wave election of my lifetime.
Yeah.
And Democrats picked up a seat in Arkansas for the first time since 2014. And we have to take that as the warning sign that it is, that our focus is not in the right place, and we have to do a better job with the trust that the people have given us, or we are not going to keep it for very long.
I truly believe that if you were elected, I remember at the last chair race, the question was asked to Chairman Wood, all right, would you like to lead the meeting? And correct me if I'm wrong, he said, no, you can.
Yes.
you can handle it. I'll take over next time.
Later.
And had that been Sarah Dunklin, she would have been like, perfect, I'll do it.
That's right.
Because she knows the rules and she can lead. She can lead me. I fully believe that if you were to win, you could take over day one and lead. You know the rules. You are a parliamentarian. What's the word I'm looking for?
I just know parliamentary law really well.
You really do. And Robert's Rules of Order. Talk to us about why that is so important, and really knowing those rules prevents the chaos that we're experiencing right now.
I have so much respect for Robert's Rules of Order. We as conservatives, of course, are very much into free markets. And Robert's Rules of Order is the result of the free market of parliamentary law over more than 200 years. And it's a tradition that has come through hundreds of minds, probably thousands of minds, with the purpose of protecting the rights of the majority, the rights of a significant minority, the rights of individual members, and the rights of absentees. And it has, over that time, become almost perfectly tailored to balancing those interests. And it is absolutely true that when you see chaos in a meeting, someone is trying to break the rules. And it's somebody who has a position of power in the meeting who is trying to break the rules. Because whenever you're following Robert's rules, everybody knows that they're going to be heard. And that's all that you need to prevent chaos.
Yeah. I want to go back to what we mentioned earlier in the meeting. You are a mom of 5,
Mhm.
sixth on the way. You are heavily involved in Searcy County. I know that
Yes.
this is feedback that you've heard. I've heard it. Margot does not have the bandwidth to be party chair.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Well, when I mentioned to my husband that I was getting that feedback, he laughed and said, "Tell them your 10-year-old is in high school and to worry about their own kids," which I thought was really quippy. But it's not, I mean, that's not really a whole answer.
Right.
But it is true. My oldest son has been school age for 5 years, and in that time, I've popped out 3 of his younger siblings, and I've had 3 part-time jobs, not including any of my volunteer work with the party. And I asked him the other day, "Are we too busy?" And he said, "Mom, we're always this busy." And he did graduate 8th grade in October, and he's a high school student now.
Wow.
And I hope that this party will give me an opportunity to do as well with them as I've been doing with my family.
Margot, you are so impressive, and I think it'll be exciting to watch. And I really appreciate you coming into the studio. Is there anything that you would want our viewers to know, or would you like to add something that we haven't covered?
Well, I mean, I think we've covered the important points.
Yeah.
But I would say that whoever is chair next, their mandate is to bring the party together. And I know that's something I'm equipped to do. And I know that's something the other 2 candidates are not equipped to do. And I really hope that you will all allow me to appeal to your better angels and take us into a future for the party that can be strong and united and stable and govern with honesty, transparency, and cooperation a long time into the future, because I would love to see Arkansas be red until the day I die.
Thank you so much, Margot.
Thank you.